You know what? When it comes to Alex, when it comes to the photo shoot, you praise her on her beauty. You tell me that I've gained weight and I gained weight. You know what? You know what? Have a good night.
Liz, you're embarrassing yourself.
When viewers first watched Big Ed and Liz Woods together on 90 Day Fiancé, many believed they had found a couple capable of overcoming the odds. Their relationship was far from perfect from the start, but that was exactly what made it fascinating. Fans witnessed emotional conversations, dramatic breakups, tearful reconciliations, and promises that seemed sincere. Through every challenge, the pair kept finding their way back to each other. Liz entered Big Ed's life during a period when he was trying to move on from previous relationship failures. She appeared to be someone who understood his insecurities and accepted him despite his flaws. Their connection quickly became one of the most talked about storylines in the franchise. However, cracks in the relationship started appearing almost immediately. Viewers noticed frequent arguments over trust, communication, and commitment. What seemed like small disagreements often escalated into major confrontations. Despite these warning signs, Big Ed and Liz continued to insist that their love was strong enough to survive anything. The couple became known for their cycle of breaking up and getting back together. Every time fans thought the relationship was over, another reconciliation followed. Friends and family members questioned whether the relationship was healthy, but both Ed and Liz remained determined to prove everyone wrong. As time passed, the emotional pressure of maintaining the relationship became increasingly visible. Episodes showed tense discussions where both parties expressed frustration and disappointment. Liz often appeared exhausted by the constant ups and downs, while Ed struggled with fears of abandonment and trust issues. Their engagement was supposed to mark a fresh start. Fans hoped that getting engaged would bring stability to a relationship that had experienced countless challenges. For a brief moment, it seemed possible. Wedding plans were discussed, future goals were shared, and both appeared committed to building a life together. But beneath the surface, deeper issues remained unresolved. Many viewers began noticing patterns that raised concerns. Arguments frequently centered around control, jealousy, and communication breakdowns. Small misunderstandings often turned into emotional confrontations. The relationship seemed trapped in a cycle that neither person knew how to escape. As social media discussions intensified, fans started taking sides. Some believed Liz was doing everything she could to make the relationship work. Others felt Ed was unfairly criticized and genuinely wanted a successful partnership. The debate became one of the hottest topics among 90 Day Fiancé fans. Behind the scenes, however, the reality was becoming increasingly difficult. The pressure of public scrutiny, combined with ongoing personal conflicts, created an environment where trust was constantly tested. Every disagreement seemed to become larger than the last. The couple's journey became less about romance and more about survival. Instead of celebrating milestones, they were often trying to recover from the latest crisis. Family members, friends, and fans watched closely, wondering whether the relationship could truly last. What nobody realized at the time was that Liz was reaching a breaking point. Years of emotional highs and lows had taken a toll. The woman who once seemed determined to fight for the relationship was beginning to see things differently. Questions that had once been ignored were becoming impossible to avoid. Was love enough to overcome repeated conflict? Could trust ever be fully restored? And most importantly, was the relationship bringing happiness or simply creating more pain? As these questions lingered in the background, events were quietly moving toward a dramatic turning point that would change everything. What started as a hopeful love story was about to become one of the most talked about breakups in 90 Day Fiancé history. In the months ahead, Liz would begin speaking more openly about her experiences, revealing details that shocked many fans and completely changed the public conversation surrounding her relationship with Big Ed. And according to Liz, the truth was far more complicated than anyone imagined. As Big Ed and Liz moved closer to what was supposed to be their future together, the problems that had been hiding beneath the surface became impossible to ignore. What fans saw on television was dramatic enough, but according to Liz, the reality behind closed doors was often even more difficult. The engagement should have been one of the happiest periods of their lives. Instead, it became a time filled with uncertainty, arguments, and emotional exhaustion. Every couple faces challenges, but for Ed and Liz, conflict seemed to become a constant part of everyday life. Friends and family members who had watched their relationship develop were becoming increasingly concerned. Many felt that the couple spent more time recovering from arguments than actually enjoying their relationship. Every disagreement appeared to reopen old wounds that had never fully healed. One of the biggest issues was trust. Over time, Liz reportedly began feeling that she was constantly being questioned or doubted. Simple interactions could turn into uncomfortable conversations. Misunderstandings became major problems. Instead of feeling supported, she often felt like she had to defend herself. At the same time, Ed seemed to struggle with insecurities that repeatedly affected the relationship. His fear of being hurt or abandoned often created tension between them. While he may have viewed certain actions as protecting the relationship, Liz increasingly saw them as signs of deeper problems. Fans watching from home started noticing the pattern. A disagreement would occur, emotions would explode, the couple would separate, then they would reconcile and promise that things would be different. For a while, the cycle continued. But each time it happened, the damage appeared to grow more serious. The pressure of living part of their relationship in the public eye only made things worse. Every argument became a topic of discussion online. Social media users analyzed every episode, every interview, and every public appearance. Supporters of Liz argued that she was doing everything possible to make the relationship work despite difficult circumstances. Meanwhile, supporters of Ed believed he was being unfairly portrayed and was simply trying to hold on to someone he loved. The constant attention created additional stress for both of them. As wedding plans continued, many viewers expected the couple to finally settle down and leave the drama behind. Instead, warning signs became more noticeable than ever. According to Liz, there were moments when she began questioning whether marriage was truly the right decision. The concerns that had once seemed manageable were becoming impossible to ignore. She reportedly started asking herself difficult questions. Could she spend the rest of her life dealing with the same problems? Would things actually improve after marriage? Or would the challenges simply continue? These doubts didn't appear overnight. They developed gradually after years of emotional ups and downs. What made the situation especially difficult was that genuine feelings still existed between them. Ending the relationship wasn't a simple decision. Love was still there, history was still there, the memories were still there. But so were the problems. As tensions increased, some of the people closest to the couple began expressing concern more openly. They worried that both Ed and Liz were becoming trapped in a relationship that was causing more pain than happiness. The turning point came when another major conflict reportedly pushed the relationship to its limit. This time felt different. Unlike previous breakups, there wasn't the same sense that a quick reconciliation was around the corner. The emotional exhaustion had reached a level where simply saying sorry no longer seemed enough to fix what had gone wrong. For Liz, something had changed internally. The hope that things would magically improve was beginning to disappear. Instead, she was starting to focus on herself, her future, and what she truly wanted from life. Fans could sense that the relationship was hanging by a thread. Every public appearance generated new speculation. Every social media post was examined for clues. Was the wedding still happening? Were they still together? Or was the relationship finally reaching its end? Those questions would soon be answered, and when Liz eventually began sharing her side of the story, many viewers realized that the breakup was not just another temporary split. It was the conclusion of years of emotional struggles, unresolved conflicts, and painful realizations. The shocking revelations that followed would completely reshape how many fans viewed the relationship and Big Ed himself. After years of dramatic breakups, emotional reconciliations, and endless speculation from fans, the relationship between Big Ed and Liz Woods finally reached a point of no return. For many viewers, the split seemed like just another chapter in their complicated love story. But this time was different. The relationship was truly over. And for the first time, Liz began speaking more openly about what she had experienced. Fans had spent years watching the couple's struggles unfold on television. They had seen the arguments, the tears, and the repeated attempts to make things work. But according to Liz, what people saw on screen was only part of the story. As she reflected on the relationship, Liz described feeling emotionally drained after years of constant instability. The repeated cycle of conflict and reconciliation had taken a significant toll on her mental and emotional well-being. What once felt like a relationship worth fighting for had gradually become something that left her feeling exhausted. One of the biggest realizations Liz reportedly had after the breakup was how much of herself she had lost while trying to keep the relationship together. When people are deeply invested in a relationship, they sometimes begin prioritizing the partnership above their own needs. Over time, personal goals, confidence, and happiness can slowly take a back seat. Looking back, Liz appeared to recognize that she had spent years trying to fix problems that were never fully resolved. The breakup gave her something she had not experienced in a long time: distance, and with distance came clarity. Without the constant emotional ups and downs, Liz was finally able to evaluate the relationship from a different perspective. She began noticing patterns that had become normal during the relationship but seemed unhealthy when viewed from the outside. Fans who followed her journey closely noticed a change. The Liz who appeared after the breakup seemed different from the woman viewers had seen during many of the most difficult moments of the relationship. She appeared more confident, more independent, and more focused on building a future that did not revolve around constant conflict. As interviews and public appearances continued, viewers became increasingly interested in hearing her side of the story. For years, public discussions about the relationship often focused on Big Ed's perspective. Now, many fans wanted to understand how Liz viewed everything that had happened. The response was enormous. Social media exploded with reactions whenever Liz discussed her experiences. Some fans expressed sympathy, believing she had endured years of emotional stress. Others argued that both individuals shared responsibility for the relationship's problems. Regardless of where people stood, one thing was clear: audiences were paying attention. The more Liz spoke, the more viewers began re-examining moments they had previously watched on television. Scenes that once appeared to be ordinary disagreements suddenly seemed more significant. Conversations that had been dismissed as temporary drama now looked like warning signs of deeper issues. For many fans, the breakup changed how they interpreted the entire relationship. Instead of seeing a couple constantly fighting but ultimately in love, some viewers began seeing two people who were simply incompatible despite their feelings for each other. Meanwhile, Big Ed faced increasing criticism from sections of the fan base. Online discussions became more intense as people debated who was responsible for the relationship's failure. Supporters of Ed argued that relationships involved mistakes on both sides and that he was being unfairly blamed for every problem. Others believed Liz's comments validated concerns they had held for years. The debate became one of the most talked about topics in the 90-Day Fiancé community. But while fans argued online, Liz appeared focused on something else entirely: moving forward. Rather than dwelling on the past, she seemed determined to rebuild her life. New opportunities, personal growth, and self-discovery became central themes in her post-breakup journey. For the first time in years, she was no longer trying to save a troubled relationship. She was trying to rediscover herself. Yet, despite her efforts to move on, the story was far from over. Because as more details emerged, fans would learn that the breakup involved far more than simple incompatibility. New revelations, unexpected claims, and shocking behind-the-scenes details were about to surface, and those revelations would create an even bigger controversy than anyone expected. The public thought they already knew the story of Big Ed and Liz Woods, but according to Liz, the most surprising chapters had yet to be told. As more time passed after the breakup, it became increasingly clear that Liz Woods was entering a completely new chapter of her life. The relationship that had once dominated her world was now part of her past. And for the first time in years, she was focused on creating a future on her own terms. For many fans, this transformation was one of the most surprising developments to come out of the entire story. Throughout her relationship with Big Ed, viewers had often seen Liz caught in a cycle of emotional highs and lows. There were moments of happiness, but there were also periods of heartbreak, uncertainty, and frustration. The constant ups and downs became such a major part of the relationship that many people began associating Liz with the drama surrounding it. But after the split, a different version of Liz started to emerge. Instead of discussing wedding plans, relationship conflicts, or reconciliation attempts, she began focusing on personal growth. She appeared determined to rebuild her confidence and rediscover the parts of herself that had been overshadowed during years of relationship turmoil. Many fans noticed that she seemed happier. Her social media posts reflected a new sense of independence. Rather than constantly responding to relationship rumors, she was sharing moments from her personal life, spending time with friends, and pursuing goals that had nothing to do with reality television drama. For supporters who had watched her struggle through countless difficult moments, the change was encouraging. The breakup, while painful, appeared to have given her an opportunity to start over. At the same time, discussions about Big Ed continued throughout the 90 Day Fiancé fan community. Some viewers remained critical of his behavior, pointing to years of public arguments and controversial moments. Others argued that relationships are complicated and that assigning blame to only one person oversimplified what had happened. Regardless of where people stood, there was widespread agreement on one point. The relationship had become unhealthy for both individuals. Sometimes two people genuinely care about each other but still bring out the worst in one another. Love alone is not always enough to sustain a healthy relationship. Trust, communication, respect, and emotional stability are equally important. For many viewers, the story of Big Ed and Liz became a powerful example of this reality. Their journey contained nearly every element of a dramatic reality television romance: passion, conflict, reconciliation, heartbreak, and public scrutiny. Yet beneath the entertainment value was a deeper lesson about relationships. A relationship cannot thrive if the same problems remain unresolved year after year. Promises alone cannot repair damage without meaningful change. And perhaps most importantly, staying together is not always the same thing as being happy together. As Liz continued moving forward, she appeared increasingly confident in her decision to leave the relationship behind. While she occasionally reflected on the past, her attention seemed focused on the future rather than revisiting old wounds. Fans who once expected another reconciliation gradually accepted that this breakup was different. There would be no dramatic reunion, no surprise engagement update, no last-minute wedding. The chapter had finally closed. Looking back, the relationship between Big Ed and Liz Woods will likely remain one of the most memorable storylines in 90 Day Fiancé history. It generated endless headlines, divided fan opinions, and kept audiences talking for years. But beyond the headlines and social media debates lies a more human story. It is the story of two people who tried repeatedly to make a relationship work despite significant challenges. It is a story about hope, disappointment, growth, and difficult decisions, and in the end, it became a story about knowing when it is time to walk away. Today, Liz appears focused on building a healthier and more stable future. Whether through personal growth, new opportunities, or simply finding peace after years of turmoil, she seems determined to leave the past behind. For fans who followed every twist and turn of the journey, one thing is certain. The breakup may have ended the relationship, but it also marked the beginning of a completely new chapter in Liz Woods' life. And sometimes the most important ending is actually a new beginning.